Many Tesla investors still like to count cars, both production and deliveries, but have not yet made the connection that Tesla has now moved to the next big milestone. Elon Musk posted a screenshot of Tesla's journey from electric vehicles to robotaxis, energy, and AI robotics. But back to the cars. First, Tesla China reported 13,000 vehicles sold for last week. This is up 18% from the week prior, but 14.5% down year over year. We'll explain why. Second, Piper Sandler analyst Alex Potter wrote a new note saying Tesla is the only car company that is trying to source batteries at scale without relying on China. Elon commented on that. Third, India has now announced its new policy for Tesla selling electric vehicles, but the federal minister also confirmed Tesla does not want to produce cars in India. Got Brian White here joining us today. Brian has his own YouTube channel called Futuraza. Welcome, Brian.
Boy, I tell you, this India thing, this China thing, this battery thing, these are all big topics. And yeah, let's get into it.
These are all the topics that you cover in depth, so they're perfect for you to explain to us what is actually happening, especially the China one and India, and the batteries, by the way. So you got the board across the board. Let's start with this one. This is a slide that we've seen before. I think Dave Lee was the first to put it together a couple of years ago, explaining that Tesla has multiple markets that it's addressing, and each market happens to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And Tesla Economics reposted it recently. Elon Musk reposted this. So he liked this slide again. And basically it says, we are here. This is June 2025. We are now at FSD Robotaxi. We're now going beyond electric vehicles. Now, whether or not, energy is bigger than FSD Robotaxi, that part I don't know. It could be because of, now energy is required for AI data warehouses, but it still feels like this point it might be flipped around. But then we're going to head to AI robots. So Elon reposted this. Before we get to talking about electric vehicles and energy, what's your thoughts about where we're at in the journey?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the fact that Dave Lee made it is probably the reason Tesla Economics reposted it. That's a reposter, a serial reposter, a shameless one at that. Didn't give credit. Hey, what are you going to do? I would agree with your conclusion that energy is probably not bigger than FSD, but in terms of timing, energy is just really getting started. I mean, yes, it's making billions of dollars in profit, raking in tens of billions in revenue, but that's really on the back of one factory. Shanghai hasn't meaningfully contributed to the bottom line yet because it takes a while to actually get paid on deployments, but we're going to see that starting really this quarter. And then we've got the Dallas one coming online probably by the end of the year. 3 of these huge energy factories that will be producing, just printing cash. The amount of revenue per employee is insane. And we've seen new footage that shows just how automated the Lathrop factory already is, because the work is repetitive. These are not, physically complicated devices. The complicated part is the software, and Tesla's got that sorted out before they did anything else. So these are going to be, energy is going to be huge, but I would agree with you. FSD is going to be a lot more meaningful, both in terms of revenue, but certainly in terms of impact to everyone's daily life.
Yeah. And actually, when you look at this chart again, I think that EVs and FSD Robotaxi, they're all actually just one thing. They're all one thing, right? The more EVs you make, the more robotaxis you're going to make. And then we're switching now to cybercabs being made next year, and then probably at scale next year, but then really bigger scale the following year. And then we're going to have the new, more affordable vehicles, maybe even more perfectly designed for robotaxi. So let's talk about car sales.
Let's talk about cars. Well, here's the thing is a lot of people say, I like driving. I don't want FSD. And then there's the next group of people that say, well, I like FSD, but it's still kind of a novelty. Increasingly, I'm hearing from people I know personally saying FSD was a novelty. Now it's a necessity. It's a necessity. Now I use it every day. Now my wife uses it. Now my wife prefers it. Mm-hmm. This is a big shift in sentiment. The days of 10% take rates may be gone. The days of 20% take rates may last only a few minutes before people get past it, because it is that good. The number of weird problems I've had keeps falling. The Costco in Ridgefield is still a a hilarious problem. I made a pretty lengthy video yesterday I haven't run yet, showing it just getting stuck. It doesn't know what the parking lot is. If I had not disengaged, I would live in that parking lot now. I would never have escaped. But those are issues that we believe will be addressed in the next build, the one that's going out already in Austin for testing. FSD is, it's not going, the people who say, I just want to drive a car, those may not be Tesla's future owners.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It was smaller and smaller. Okay, let's talk car sales. There's still a lot of people that are following the car sales, and don't you see Tesla's cars are falling behind? Maybe you can explain a little bit. There's nuance, of course, around this. To tell us what's going on. China just reported their weekly sales for last week was 13,000 units. So this is up 18.5% from last week, but down negative 14.5% for year over year. The quarter is now 2.6% quarter over quarter and still negative 21% year over year. This quarter is negative 40% versus the fourth quarter of 24, which is the best quarter, of course. So year to date, we're down 7.6%. Okay, but this is the highest week of the quarter. We like to follow this table from Roland Pololi on X. You should follow him. The pink is 2025. And so we're now in Q2. And here we are at the 72,000. And we're kind of in line with what happened in Q1 to 24 of Q1. But if you compare it to, of course, you shouldn't, to Q4 24, you shouldn't do that. But compared to 24 Q2, which is the green, we are certainly behind and below that. We know why that's the case, but a lot of people still don't. So that's where we're at. The blue here is 2025. It's not terrible when you look at it from this point of view. In fact, probably by the end of the year with the Model Y premium going up, it is going to catch up. I won't cover these because they're kind of more complicated graphs, but I like what Søren Basher said, right? Counting cars in China, please, CCCP. For those that still count cars, okay? Tesla sold 208,000 cars in China so far this year. And then he said, take a look at it from kind of a look back. He did his own 2025 year to date. You can see this is, where we're at today. And then, so that's 15,000 less than this time last year. 22,000 less than this time in 2023. Oh my God, everything's falling apart. Relative to Q1 of this year, Q2 is following a similar path. But he's showing that it certainly is. If you look at it from that perspective, it's going down. Sell, sell, sell. If we zoom out and look at the year-to-date track, yellow solid line, along with the last 3 full years, there's still plenty of time to make up for lost ground. That's what he's saying here. If you take a look at this, just like I said earlier, there's lots of time to catch up. What you're thinking about everything? Yeah.
The nameplate capacity is about 1 million units out of Shanghai. It's about 3,000 cars a day. So if we're behind for the year by 15,000 units, that's 5 days of production that we're behind. We're 5 days behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good coming up on the midway point of the year. So Shanghai, I'm not worried about. I like to look at what the skeptics say. And in the comments on my videos, boy, do they have a lot to say. The story is over in China. The competition's too good. People are waking up to this terrible piece of junk. Really? Because the sales look pretty good. That is not the trajectory I would expect to see for a car that's fallen off a cliff, for a brand that's done, that's just destroyed. Brand damage for China doesn't exist. I was not able to find it anywhere. Sure, I imagine there's 1 or 2 people who feel that way. There always are. But Elon doesn't get involved in politics there. The news is favorable to Tesla and Elon, but not unduly so. It's pretty even-keeled and balanced. It's a car that people like. When we saw the low figures at the beginning of May, I saw people saying, well, I told you the competition's arrived. I said, you think the competition showed up on May 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. They're shipping cars. They're shipping cars out.
That's right.
That's,
yeah.
Yeah, we were able to unravel that mystery. And of course, well, that's just our blind hopium. No, guys, we follow the numbers. We follow the data. And the data said, this is probably what happened. And here we are a month later, and that is what appears to have happened. So we were able to get out ahead of that one just because we study it so closely. So yeah, how are things doing in China? Fine. They're doing fine. It's entirely possible that the shortfall we're seeing is still suppliers ramping up supplies of new parts, because this has mostly new parts, over 50% new parts. So, yeah, I am absolutely unconcerned about China, the new price war heating up. That could have a marginal impact. But if it does, Tesla will either compete on price, which is possible because now they'll have that additional revenue stream from FSD, which is being deployed in China, or they will export more units to other markets where the markup is better.
Thank you for explaining that. Yep, I remember a month ago you basically explained the reasons why the numbers fell in first week of May. So let's get started. You wanted to share with me, or you wanted me to share to folks here, what happened in Norway. Can you explain
Yeah. Oh,
what's going on?
it's
Yeah,
so bad. Norway, you guys. Europe, the demand is just through the floor. Nobody
right.
wants these cars. And we've been trying to explain that, at least in Q1, you can't sell a car until you build it. If Elon's reputation was at all-time highs, would it have materially impacted Q1 deliveries? No, because there were no more cars to deliver. They delivered all the ones they built. They couldn't have built more. They didn't have them. Q2 is what we're in now. We said that would give us a better picture. But if you look country by country, you will see different pockets of softness. But in a lot of places, that softness correlates directly to when the ship arrives. Well, the ship arrived in Norway. How are the numbers doing there? Norway's on track to have its best sales year ever. So whatever damage is going on in Europe, Norway didn't get the memo. Maybe it's the postal strike, or is that Denmark? I'm not sure, but they're having a fantastic sales year. And it's because the ship arrived. The ship arrived, people were able to take delivery. And there's two parts to that. One part is they'll ship cars that you ordered, but they'll also ship a certain small number of inventory cars, so impulse buyers can go get them. maybe your V8 died on you today and you need a car for tomorrow. You can just go in and get one. Uh, Tesla famously doesn't keep a lot of stock on hand, but they do keep some stock on hand. If you want to go buy a Tesla today, you can. You can just go online, order it, and go pick it up. It may not be the color you want. It may not be the options you want. But in my region, I think if you wanted a Model 3 today, you could only get a rear-wheel drive one, but they are available.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. Is right in line with what Jeff Lutz has been saying. Jeff is an expert in supply chain. This is his career. Same with you. This is something you guys follow closely and explain. Lots of so certainly there is brand damage. Nobody's saying that there isn't, but it's not the number one reason why these numbers have fallen in Europe. Even Elon said, right? There's softness in Europe. But if you look at what's actually happening, it's like stock out. In many of these pockets of countries, they don't have the product, despite them already moving forward to the new Model Y. And Jeff figures that out by going online and saying, I live in this country. Let me see if I can buy a Model Y, and there's zero inventory. And it's exactly what you said. It's still being shipped, and then it happened in this country. The ship has arrived, but the others hasn't yet, or has been delayed or some reason. So you have to wait until the following month because, like you say, lots of reasons why, but it's supply chains all brand new. So it's
Yeah.
just
And there are plenty of people saying there is no brand damage. It's all in your head. It's all the media lying to you. I do not share that conclusion. I'm with you on this. There is some. The effect, the scope of it remains to be seen, but we'll know more in coming months. And like you said, counting cars is a bit of an old school idea at this point for a company like this. This is like demanding IBM secure new contracts with gear and spring manufacturers at the dawn of the age of electronic computing. It would have made no sense. Well, their mechanical cash register sales are falling apart. Right? You're looking at the wrong thing.
Nice. Okay, let's move on. One of the things that Elon commented on was a Piper Sandler note. Piper Sandler analyst Alex Potter said Tesla is the only car company that is trying to source batteries at scale without relying on China. Eventually, Tesla will be making its own cathode active materials, refining its own lithium, building its own anodes, coating its own electrodes, assembling its own cells and selling its own cars. No other US company can make similar claims. You have been following the factories everywhere, but specifically in Giga, Texas, you were watching the cathode building going up a couple of years ago. Elon said it's important, albeit extremely hard work, to localize supply chains to mitigate geopolitical risk. This is something that takes years to set up. Fortunately, Tesla's been doing this for many years, even before this tariff war that's happening now. The comments on this comment.
Of course. I had a great conversation yesterday with Jordan Giesecke from The Limiting Factor, who is, of course, a wealth of information on this. And he was explaining to me that uniquely Tesla has multiple supply chains for everything that they need, for every part, every piece. And I said, well, but Tesla's not the only company that makes batteries. What about Panasonic? They've been making them for years. And he said, yeah, where do the pieces come from? Where do the elements come from? Where do the cathodes come from? None of the pieces are from the cans are from the US, they're made in Nevada, but almost all of the critical components of the battery are not from the US. So Tesla is trying to diversify. It's not just that they're making the electrode. It's not just that they're trying to get the cathode sorted out. It's that they're making the lithium too. It's that the steel comes from North America to make the cans. It's that every part of it. And well, why does it matter? I could save a penny. Yeah, but a penny is, on 7,000 cells, $70. Would you pay $70 extra to have a supply chain that is immune to foreign influence? Because those outside pieces can cost $70 more overnight, instantly. And we saw during the pandemic that there was some real weakness in our supply chain. I'm sure it was things that Jeff Lutz had been discussing for years, and then he finally had to throw his hands up and say, "See, I told you." But of course, no one listens after the fact. So yeah, Tesla is uniquely trying to build everything here, and not exclusively. They will continue buying other parts from other places, but they need that backup. They want that backup so that they've always got a plan B, C, and D. And that's why that philosophy is what allowed them to continue building cars in 2022 when Ford was filling big grass fields with F-150s because they couldn't get the blue oval to slap on the front.
Right. That's right.
So
I remember that.
It is
it's
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
If you don't have 100% of the parts, you have 0% of the batteries.
Yeah. It's great to see Elon thinking, I guess strategically, months and years ahead, years and years and years ahead. But if you compare it to other automakers, they've not done these work. And so, you continue to hear their struggles, their failure to do things. This is it. It's great. Good company, great leader. This is right when you see it.
MBA to look after the pennies, and the MBA doesn't have the complete picture. They just have a spreadsheet. And especially if you're talking about, a lot of companies love to bring in young MBAs because they're the ones who make the most aggressive cuts because they don't understand the context surrounding their cuts. If I can trim one penny out of this, I'm going to. Right. What if that puts the company in a position where we're going to be doomed in the future? Well, I won't be here. So I guess I don't understand the question.
Connecting the Dots did this fantastic video that taught me a lot of what happened to the auto industry. So at the very beginning, when cars were being made, Ford Motor was, I think even today, considered to be the most vertically integrated company in the world, right? They would, Tesla makes their own seats now, but I can't remember the exact examples, but Ford would make their own rubber.
Smelt their own iron.
Yeah.
And they still do.
Yeah. And so car companies were first born to be totally vertically integrated. And then in the 80s, what they wanted to do was reduce costs to fight against the Japanese quality improvement. Reduce costs was the big thing. And so they start to outsource it. MBAs from these, OEMs and large companies would then say, okay, I'm going to outsource all these parts now. The seats are going to be made by this company, the best in breed, lowest cost, most volume. But they overdid it because now almost all of their parts are outsourced to all these suppliers who are, they've already cut the cost as much as possible. And then they're just assemblers. They bring things together. And so now Tesla is smart. Elon's saying, okay, I'm going to do things vertically integrated, back to what Ford had done way back then, So it's showing up now that the strategy was the right thing to do.
I can understand why they did it, and in a perfect world, it would have worked fine. We don't live in a perfect world. Have you seen the world lately? We've got a few things we need to fix, and the next thing we need to fix is never predictable. So if you can set up your business in a way that insulates you from uncertainty, well, that's what Tesla's doing. That's why they created their own battery factory in the first place in a joint venture with Panasonic in Nevada, was to insulate themselves from price fluctuations, from production fluctuations, from demand issues that, when they built Giga Nevada, they said we're going to be making 35 gigawatt hours of batteries. And the analyst said, you understand that's like doubling the global output of batteries, right? Yes. And if we don't, no one will, and we won't be able to build our cars. What a crazy, dumb idea. Oh, wait, critical. It turned out to be critical to the growth of the company. And here we are.
And so that's critical, right? So a critical thing is the batteries. The other one is software. Ford CEO, right? He came out and said that for them they've outsourced all of their modules, 140 companies. And so for everything that they want to do, if they want to make the seats, move faster when you make it go forward or backwards or something like that, they need to get a vendor to approve it.
Yes.
Bosch in this case.
Yes.
And it's like you need to control the software of your car. Every part of it needs to be controlled now. It's a software first vehicle these days,
I had a chance to talk with an automotive software engineer, and I asked him, how is it that Ford is beholden to all this software and Tesla isn't, when Tesla is buying their parts from the same suppliers as Ford? And he said, what Ford is buying is systems. What Tesla is buying is components. Tesla's not buying infotainment. They're buying a screen and then putting their own software on it. I asked him, what language? Is there like a go-to language that automotive software engineers use? And he said, no. All the parts of your car are speaking different languages and then trying to output to the same archaic CAN bus system that's decades out of date, and it becomes a traffic jam. And if one of your sensors decides to ping too often, it creates a traffic jam in the control system, and it's just a mess.
Okay. So India, let's talk India. Apparently now it's clear Tesla has decided they're not going to produce cars in India. Take a look at this. We've got the India heavy industry minister. He says Tesla is not interested in local manufacturing in the country. Boy, I don't know. This still makes it look like he's crying.
Mercedes Benz.
It made him look like he's crying.
Skoda. Then Hyundai.
Okay, I'm not going to play it.
It looks like he's saying, we played a good game. We brought our best team, but
Well, it looks like he's crying in this still. It's hilarious. Okay. So they don't want to produce cars in India. That's what he said as the government finalizes its electric vehicle policy, with the company's plans currently focused on importing cars into the country. The article says, right, not keen on local production. So India is going to significantly cut import taxes for foreign automakers that pledge to invest in domestic EV production lines. That policy, which has been in the works for a year, was originally designed to attract Tesla to set up manufacturing in the country, but its CEO put his investment plans for India on hold last year. So it looks like it's still on hold. Immediate plans to import cars into China, India. We know that, right? Because Tesla has set up sales centers. They've been hiring like crazy. We know that's happening. And then what do we have here? So this is what they've done. Companies will be allowed to import a limited number of electric cars at a reduced duty of 15% versus the current 70% if they commit $500 million to build EVs. I don't know if Tesla will just eat the 70% in imported cars.
So
it allows them to
happen?
8,000 imported cars per year. So that's like tiny.
That's That's the catch. So this, you made this program to attract Tesla, but you set the cap at 8,000. You set the cap at a couple days of production. What are you talking about? That's insane. Now, if you wanted to do it, you'd have to get serious. This is not a serious offer. So you want me to bring a $500 million, and in exchange, you'll let me import hundreds of cars a month. Come on. I mean, that'd be great if you could cut the price on Model S and X if you've got a factory building 3s or 2s or Qs or whatever. I've been talking with a lot of people in India over the last week, so a few days since this came out, trying to understand what's going on and why Tesla would choose not to. I point out China had the same accusations before Giga Shanghai. It's going to be corruption. It's going to be IP theft. It's going to be bribes. And none of that came to fruition. These are the claims that a lot of people are making now about India. Do you want to pay bribes at every step of the supply chain? Do you want to have to deal with all the nonsense? And I said, large companies are often able to get around that because they get protections others don't. And the answer I'm getting from people in India is, yeah, but this is India. So what I'm hearing from them is that the social aspect of the economy has not reached the level of maturity that China was at in 2019, is, I guess, a polite way of putting it. Their words were a little stronger than that. But the second part is, can India afford the cars? And if we're talking about Model S and X and Cybertruck, the answer is no. They could afford a handful, but not a meaningful number. Yes, there are hundreds of thousands of millionaires in China, in India, but that's not the important part. For moving 3s and Ys, you look at their 1%. Can their 1% afford the cars? Yes. Their top 2% is what? Over 20 million people. That's a lot of units you could move. But I guess the decision is that the market is not yet sufficiently mature. And I think the bigger reason is India has a habit of protectionist policies for their domestic manufacturers, of which they have many. And they'd really rather see Tata be the Tesla of India than Tesla be the Tesla of India.
All true, all true. But I think the bigger reason is Tesla themselves. They don't need to create cars at this point. Right now, they've got capacity for all their existing factories that they have now. They're going to switch to the unboxed model. And then there's this pivot to the more affordable cars, but more importantly, the cybercabs. And so you're not going to necessarily see cybercabs in India because it's kind of the last obstacle to hit. It's the final boss.
It's the final boss, yeah.
To be able to offer cybercabs, automated robotaxis in India. So that will be years away, I think, at this point. And they're going to just focus on where they need to build. Where can I build the most cybercabs? Which factories will do it? And that's what they'll do. And I think India is kind of no longer the priority. Selling the more affordable vehicles in India is no longer the priority. They want to sell automated vehicles. You were talking about Tata, and yes, obviously Tesla or India wants to attract Tesla there. But yeah, inside India's EV sales, dominated by Tata Motors, accounted for just 2.5% of total car sales of 4.3 million in 2024. They want to increase it to 30% by 2030. So maybe it's only going to be Tata that has it, but they certainly wanted Tesla there, and it's not happening.
Is 2.5% of the global figure? Because that seems quite low. And if they think they're going to get to 30% of global sales, well, that's fascinating.
No, it's not. It's 2.5% of total car sales of 4.3 million, which is how many cars were sold in India.
Oh, okay.
And only 2.5% of it was EVs.
Oh, I see. So
they want to switch that to 30% of that. Yeah. They want to sell 30% of 4.3. So let's say it's around 1 million. They want to sell 1 million cars that are electric vehicles.
I've also heard that they need to get their domestic battery manufacturing capacity up. They're facing the same thing Tesla is, which is that they can make batteries at volume cost effectively using Chinese components. And they need to limit their
build it themselves.
Their dependence on China.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you very much for this great show. Just last slide I want to show here again. Here we are. Just remember that we are on path. So yes, there's slowdown in EVs, but we're just about to make the curve We're on the cusp. We're here. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you. Check out his channel, Future Ozza. He has deep dives on factories, on batteries, on every single car you can think of. And he just came back from China. So he did, I don't know, how many videos did you say? 20 plus? 22 videos on different Chinese vehicles and how sales are happening there. You want to find out that? It's his channel, Future Ozza. Thanks, everybody. Bye, Brian. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.